Remember how you loved the stories at bedtime about princesses and fairy godmothers? Well, you may want to hold on tighter to your teddy bear and keep that nightlight on, because these are not your mother's bedtime stories.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Not Your Mother's Bedtime Story, a paranormal podcast where a mother and her daughters interview family and friends about their paranormal experiences. This week, we are resuming our talks with Stacy and Taylor and their stories with their friendly ghost, Louie. If you haven't listened to episode part 1 of this story, I'd recommend you go back and listen to that first. But if you have, you're all caught up. And for now, here's Stacy and Taylor.
When the nephew came over, I remember kind of following Mom around because he wanted to see the house.
Yeah.
And so she was, just showing him we did put new carpet in, and we did, as Mom stated earlier, she loved how original everything was in the house. Mm-hmm. And he had asked Mom where do you guys have all of this activity, And she was like, well, sometimes in the basement, but normally it's in the kitchen near the nook or in the bedroom. It was technically the master, but right off the kitchen, it always happens here.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, that makes sense. Those were the two places he didn't get the woodwork refinished.
Yeah.
And they were different colors.
Yeah.
But not by a lot.
Not a lot. He could
just tell that it was,
they were a little different. Yeah.
And his nephew, and I remember him saying this, we were standing in the nook. He was like, well, we think that everybody sees him because he had unfinished business.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you hear that a lot, when we hear about other people's stories, or, everyone's like, well, they had unfinished business. That's why they're here.
And he was protecting the house.
He took so much pride
in that. I think if I would have started painting that woodwork, I don't know, he might have come out with a knife and threw it at me. I don't know. That's kind of how I felt. But, I loved the house the way it was. I literally fell in love with that house. And to this day, the only reason we sold that house is because I wanted our kids to go to a small town school. And so when a house came available in one of the best school districts around Lincoln in a small town, we decided, okay, we're going to do this, And I literally cried when I left that house. I, to this day, wish I still had that house. I drive past it all the time. I'm just very emotionally connected to it. And I don't even.
And I think a lot of it is because of Louie.
I think it
is. It was hard for me to leave too, because I was 10 when we left.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was hard to leave him almost.
Yeah, it was weird.
Because after that, my mom said after his nephew left, the energy shifted. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't he was protecting the home anymore. It turned into he's protecting us. He knows that we respect the house. We respect him.
Right.
We would never do anything to ruin the house or anything that he had built. Mm-hmm. And it turned into, he's now protecting us. So all the weird things that were happening, she was like, I don't see, she literally said, I saw it differently after that.
I did.
I saw it as, and
hey, she can hear me or whatever.
Yeah,
I don't.
She sees me.
Or she sees me, yeah.
Yeah, because then after that is when I started, we knew his name. And
and we'd call him out.
Yelling at him. Yeah. We would just start yelling at him if he would start doing something. So if my covers were off, I'd wake up and I would just be like, can you stop? I just remember just talking to him like he was alive.
So we would hear her in there go, Louie, I just want to sleep. Cold, put my covers back on. She literally just be in there talking to Louie. And we're like, so then I would be like, Louie, leave her alone. She needs to go to sleep.
Yeah, that is the weird part. If he's so protective, what's with the covers? And why is he always taking them off? You think he would want to cover you up and keep you warm, not
Right.
I played with him a lot.
Yeah.
So I think that he just thought it was funny.
Yeah.
And his nephew did say that, like, he was a really funny guy.
Like a jokester type of guy.
And he loved to, like, play with the kids and, like, mess around with him when he was younger. Like, they would always just, like, mess around together and play together. And
she even started blaming stuff that she did on Louis.
Like, well, I mean, turnabout's fair play, right? She got blamed for all the stuff that he did.
Right. So. Yes. So I think she was like, I didn't do it. Louis did it. Like, we're be like, oh, yeah, right. Yeah. So she started blaming him, but that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
And so one question I have, so Stacy, you said, you always wanted that house. Like, what do you remember what initially drew you to it, or when you first saw it, or how you came across it? Like, what was there something happening? I mean, how long was it after you first saw the house, then you finally were able to buy it? Like, do you remember any of that?
Oh, yeah. So one of my mom's good friends was a realtor, and literally the day before we found this house, we had owned we owned another house at the time. And so I had called Mary, our realtor, and I said, I think we're ready for a bigger house. And Mary's like, well, there's this house that's coming up on the market tomorrow. And why don't you just drive by? Because it's not real far from your house. And so I was like, all right. We drove by. And as soon as I saw that house, I said, we're buying this house. And he goes, we don't even know how much they want for it. It's not even on the market yet. And I said, I don't care. I'm going back. We're calling Mary, because this is before cell phones, right? I'm going back. We're calling Mary, and I want that house. And so she actually came over that night, and with papers, because at the time, you didn't get on your phone and look through the pictures of the house like, oh, that bedroom looks cute. It was like printed off papers. And I told her, I said, you might as well stay because I want this house. And she was like, and so she was like, all right. So she gets on the phone. She's talking to this realtor, blah, blah, blah. And they say a price, and at the time, my husband raced, right? We spent every penny we had into that race car and to provide for Taylor. I mean, that was our life at the time. And like, we would literally make goulash and eat it for a week because it was cheap, right? And I just didn't care how much this house cost. I wanted this house. And by 10 o'clock that night, we signed the papers for the house. It didn't even go on the market.
So I have a question. Did you ever get to see a picture of Louis to see if he looked like the man that you saw in the hallway?
No, I didn't have any pictures of him when his nephew came by.
I mean, he did say that he would bring us picture or whatever, but he just never made it back over. But that he always wore overalls. Like, he never, if it was super hot, he had like cut off overalls. So like his... he took an old pair of cut overalls and like cut for shorts, right? So, but he always wore overalls.
Rocking some 1910 overall jorts. I like it.
Yep. The old
overall jorts too. Those are the best kind.
I know, right?
Overalls for all seasons.
Yeah, how he explained him was how I explained him to mom and dad was.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the first time I vividly remember seeing him was in the hallway right outside my room.
Right.
And we just had like a stare off. Like, I was coming out of the bathroom and he was staring at me. Like, we were looking at each other. And I just stood there and stared at him, and he just stared back at me. And he was in overalls, and he had a plaid shirt. It was rolled up.
Yeah.
And he did have a beard. I just don't think she saw him well enough, because I know he did have a face, like, he had all the facial features, but he wasn't any like color. Like, it was like a little white, but not like bright white. but you could see, at least I could, all of his facial features. And I think I remember that because I saw him all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, he had a longer beard, and the beard was white, very white.
Mm-hmm. See, and that's what I remember. It like kind of went to a point almost.
Yeah, it was a weird beard, but he had one.
Yeah.
But yeah, his nephew described him the same way that we described him.
To a T.
Yep. Yep, he had a beard. He was a taller guy. He was, bigger shoulders. But yeah, I think him and I kind of bonded because I wasn't afraid of him. Like, who just has a stare off with a ghost and doesn't say anything? Like, I just stood there and stared at him, and he just stared at me. Like, I think he was expecting me to run, is how I remember it. Like, he expected me to run every time I saw him, and I never did. I just stood, I would just stare at him, or I'd talk to him, or I'd tell him to move, even though I probably could have walked right through him. But I vividly remember him standing in my door sometimes as a joke. He would stand there, and I'd be like, you got to move. I would just tell him, Louie, move. Like, I need to go, or I need to go to the bathroom, or like, But I remembered it being a joke, but I don't know why I knew it was a joke, but I just...
See, and I think when I saw him, because I feel like he startled me just because I really thought somebody was in the house, that's why he moved so fast. Like, because I probably then startled him by screaming, literally, there's somebody in the house. That's why to me it feels like, he could have a stare down with Taylor, but not really with me. Because I think, the whole, I seeing him and it startled me because it was like in the middle of the night, right? I don't know if, that was, because I never saw him again, but I knew he was there.
Yeah, well, and that's like the whole like innocence of a child, and like a child not knowing any better versus like an adult. You're like, yeah, big, large man, intruder, versus like Taylor, you're like, hey, this is just what happens. He pulls off my covers and I see him. And so, yeah, you have like that innocence and where he feels comfortable. But even like you said before, like you could walk into a house and know if the energy is positive or negative. Yeah. So even though it frightened you, like you didn't feel like he meant any, ill harm to you guys. And like you said, he was a joker. He was a protector. He was not going to harm you at all. So I think that maybe made a difference.
Yeah.
Do you know if anybody, so I don't know if you've talked to the people that live in the house now, or, I mean, you mentioned you spoke to the neighbor, Virginia, and she said, oh, you're hearing footsteps in the kitchen. So has anybody else actually seen him, or is it only the people in your family that had significant dates correlate with significant events, for the house?
We actually said that. I was like, would it be weird if I went and knocked on their door and asked them if they have seen him? Like,
I don't think so.
I
don't think so.
Weird.
That would be kind of weird. But Virginia's passed. Her daughter, she's passed also. But, when we sold the house, the people that moved in,
she doesn't have a good feeling about them.
No.
She never did.
No.
She's literally, I remember her bawling her eyes out as we were leaving the house. Yeah. And she goes, they're going to ruin everything.
Yeah.
Like, I just know they're going to ruin.
So I really didn't have a very good feeling about these people. And one, they kept coming back to our realtor, Mary, and saying, well, this is wrong, or this is wrong. And it quite honestly just pissed me off. I was just like, are you kidding me? This house is perfect. And I'm sorry. I felt like that. And I did. And so I never had a good feeling about those people. I thought they're going to come in and they're going to tear out everything Louis did. And I had such a hard time with that.
So I wonder if he, any kind of retaliation.
Louis wouldn't like
if they were doing anything.
Louis wouldn't like
1,000%. I fully believe that if they are even still there, that...
Which I think they are, honestly, because I do drive past the house, because,
And you're like, I have your skeleton keys.
Yeah, right? And all the paperwork, but you're never getting it. And I think that's why I took that stuff, because I thought that they wouldn't care. That paperwork probably would have just went in the trash and they wouldn't care. And to me, it meant something to me. And I can't even tell you why that house, like I was so attached to that house. But I'm getting emotional right now thinking about that. They didn't take care of that house. And it makes me sad for Louis because I just think we had
such a deep connection to him.
We did.
Is there anything else there? I mean, I'm just wondering, like maybe somewhere down, your family tree line or some kind of, like, is there some kind of connection that
there possibly
has not been uncovered yet? It just seems very...
Yeah, because it would be my great-grandma on mom's side. They owned a ton of farmland that could have butted up to what Louis owned, because the farmland that Louis owned before it became Lincoln, he owned like all of it around him. So, I mean, it very well could be. There could be a connection somewhere. I never thought of it that way.
I didn't either.
But there could be, because the land could have. Because how far into Lincoln did they own the farmland?
Yeah, and if your family has roots that go that far back and he was there that long ago, I mean, there could have been some kind of
connection there.
Crossover, that, some kind of relationship or something that it just seems, it seems that there's a something a little bit deeper there than just going past a house and thinking, oh, I really like this house. Like there's a deeper connection there that feels, and the fact that it's all centered around your family, while there's other people that maybe have heard things or said, it seems very vocalized and, just present among your family, and you still have it. I mean, the fact that that's there, and I can't wait for you to get to the one story that you told me, Taylor, that I think just kind of really,
this will solidify the shift in energy and maybe why we feel so close to him.
Yeah.
And just, I don't know. I just feel like I could walk into that house at any time and it would just feel like home.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Like I could just walk in there and be like, yep.
And I think that's why I get so emotional, because I don't feel, because those people were complaining about stupid stuff in the house.
She wasn't going to rip the glass doorknobs because they complained about them.
Yeah.
To our realtor. So my mom was going to rip the doors.
I'm like, I'll take the whole door.
And I remember my dad being like, we are not taking the doors.
Right.
Like the doors stay with the house. But she literally was like, I'm taking the glass doorknobs because they're just going to throw them away.
I did. I mean, I really wanted to. He wouldn't let me, but I really wanted to. Yeah. He was like, first of all, we are not buying all new doorknobs for this house. So you're leaving the glass doorknobs. And I'm like, fine, I'm taking the skeleton key though.
Yeah. There might be something.
Okay. Yeah. Let me know.
Why we're so connected to him. But we just are. I don't know. I don't know how to explain that.
I don't know how to explain it either, because I mean, I felt like I literally lost.
And you can't. Maybe you can't. And that's, I say, maybe something will come out and the connection will be revealed and then it will just click and make sense.
Yeah.
I feel like there's something more there. It seems to me that it's not just a coincidence.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
All these things are connecting because the pictures that we have of, what would he be? My great-great-great-grandpa? He always wore overalls too.
He did.
All the pictures.
He's a farmer.
I remember of him. They look the same though. They do. Now that I think of it, they look the same.
Yeah. Yeah, they do. The old,
Is he rocking some jorts too?
He might have. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure he did. Out on the farm working,
Yeah. But there could be something. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Or maybe there was some kind of debt that to be paid. It was like, maybe somebody in your family did something for Louis and he's like, I'll be forever in your debt. And that just went, carried on, because like I said, you gotta tell the story, because I feel like, I think, if that was something that happened, that I'm in your debt.
But it was it wasn't long before we ended up moving. We ended up having to piece this together a little bit because we both remember it happening.
Yeah.
But I remembered certain pieces that picked up on her brain of oh yeah, that is what happened. Because I mean, we do have to remember it happened over 20 years ago. So
more than that, 25 years ago.
This was probably the biggest thing that he had ever done. My mom had my brother and I, we were in the bathroom. Troy and I are very close. We've always been super close. But we used to just play in the bathtub together as siblings do. And it was early in the morning And we were trying to piece it together because my dad was sleeping in the bedroom. And so my mom shut the door. So
in a waterbed,
in a waterbed, of course.
That'll come into play.
He's asleep, and she, for whatever reason, is getting us in the bathtub. We're playing. I'm sure we're loud. Everything echoed in that house, especially in that bathroom. So she shut the door, which wasn't normal. We don't usually shut the bathroom door.
But if the kids were taking a bath, I would never shut the bathroom door.
Yeah, so it's shut. She gets us out. We're getting ready to get out of the bathroom, go and, get ready for the day, whatever. And I just remember her panicking. I don't remember, I was like, what is going on? And she's pulling at the door, trying to open it, right? Pulling at it, turning the knob, and it's not coming open. Yeah. And if you remember, they're glass doorknobs, and the skeleton key is the only thing that can lock it. Right. So we couldn't have locked ourselves in. It just, you couldn't do that in that house, but the doors would stick. So it wasn't uncommon to also have to move it, jank it around to finally get it to pull open.
Right.
But
it was different that day.
Yes. As she's pulling on it, she was able to turn the knob and pull on it, but it wasn't coming open. Somebody was on the other end holding the doorknob.
So it was the top of the door and the bottom of the door. I'm holding the knob, but the top and the bottom was bowing in because I'm pulling on it, but the knob's not that part's not coming. But I'm pulling on the door and pulling on the door and pulling on the door. And for whatever reason,
we were in there
for a while,
probably 10 minutes.
I mean, I was literally getting ready to open the window in the bathroom and get Taylor because outside and run around to
Yeah, and for whatever reason, Dad was not hearing her because I remember her yelling at him because she thought it was him.
I did. I thought it was
messing
him.
with us. She thought it was my dad.
Yeah.
And I just remember her yelling Todd, stop it. We gotta go. Stop.
Right. Yeah.
And wasn't answering back. Right. Which was very strange.
Weird. Yeah.
You would hear him laugh because my dad would do
naughty things like that.
Yeah. He would do dumb
ornery.
Stuff like that
yeah.
To, mess with us.
Yeah.
And finally, all of a sudden, I remember her pulling on it and it just opened.
Yeah.
Just opened. No, nothing had just happened. But I remember sitting in there because she's I don't know what to do with
I mean, they were freezing, because they're in their towels and they're all cold and they were freezing and they're like, Mom, I'm cold. And I'm I can't get the door. I mean, I literally kind of felt like I was in a panic. And so as soon as that door, I felt that release, I ran to our room because I was I'm going to catch Todd jumping back into that waterbed, right? He is going to get it because I was mad, and I run in there and he's sound asleep. Waterbed's not moving. And I'm okay, that's weird. Because, when you jump in a waterbed, you can't just stop the waterbed, right?
right.
It would be woo, And so, yeah, so I...
sloshing around a little bit.
Always.
Right.
Always.
So I'm standing there and I'm thinking, that is so weird. Then all of a sudden, we get a knock on the door, on the back door. And back in those times, we really didn't lock our back door very much. We were very trusting people. My husband left his keys in his truck. I mean,
all the time.
And I mean, his truck did end up getting stolen one time, but that's beside the point.
Yeah, he did it to himself.
Right. Yeah.
But we never locked that back door.
Never locked that. So
randomly, the back door would get locked.
Yes.
And they thought it was me. People would get locked out of the house.
Yeah.
You would have to knock on the door and be like,
we had to start hiding a key because
the back door.
Yeah.
So there's a knock on the back door, and this is what she didn't quite remember. And I was no, I know this happened.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure she told me to go answer the door because I went and answered the back door, and you had to go through the mud room.
Yeah.
And then down a set of stairs.
Yeah.
And there was
2 stairs. But
there was the door.
Yeah.
So I opened the door, and there's a police officer standing right there, and I was like, what did we do? So then
what did we do?
I told then my mom came down and he was like, are you okay? Is everybody okay? And she was just, I just remember being so confused. And that was the first time I had interaction with a police officer. So I like vividly remember it because I was probably 9.
Oh, they called the cops on us all the time.
But that was like my first.
She's like, you could hear me in the bathroom?
Yeah, I know, right?
I was that loud.
And he kept asking her, is everybody okay? Is everybody okay? Are you alone? And she was like, everything is fine.
Yeah, my husband's
what's
sleeping.
going on?
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, I just wanted to make sure you were okay. And then we went outside because then Virginia comes running across the street.
Literally.
And we're standing now in the driveway because we got out of the house because she's running towards us. And she was in a panic. And she was like, is everybody okay? Do you have the kids? Are you guys all right? Like just panicked. And my mom was like, what is going on? Because then we like look over and there's an alleyway that led on the side of our house. And there are just cop cars everywhere. There's lights going off everywhere.
And we're oblivious.
We had no idea what was happening.
Yeah.
And Virginia was like, the gas station down the street got robbed at gunpoint and the guy ran down your alley.
Well, and they shot the guy. Yeah, the clerk.
At the gas station.
At the gas station.
And he ran away. And he ran down our alley, which would be literally feet like
to our house.
Yeah, feet from our house.
Yeah.
And it would have, and then I remember Mom asking Virginia, well, what time did that happen? And she was like, probably about 20, 30 minutes ago. And that's when we were stuck in the bathroom.
And
we're off in the house, so you never would have known. Yeah. Virginia also said he went up to your door.
Yeah. Because she could see
plain sight. Like it was just, she could see directly to our house. And
yeah, 'cause she called me all the time when Troy would stand outside and pee.
Because he
she'd be like, Stacy, hey, Troy's peeing on the porch again. Great.
So she could see
That's voice.
Yeah. She could see our house very clear.
Yes.
And she was in a panic because he, I guess, ran down the alley and came up to our door. But we would have never have heard that because we were stuck in the bathroom.
And more than likely, it was unlocked. And
yeah, it was always unlocked.
But then when Louis locked it, because didn't you say sometimes he would lock the door for you? So
I do think he did lock it that day.
So he locked you guys in and locked the door.
He locked you in the bathroom.
Wow.
That's really what I think. I mean,
he's a guardian angel.
Yeah.
Oh.
Because you probably would have sent Taylor to the door to get the door.
Right.
No, I would have never said, if I would have known there was a gunman outside, I would have never like, but I told you the door, sis, you'll be okay.
She probably would have sent me just to get the door because I think she was like getting Troy ready or something,
I mean,
so I would just go get the door, like whatever. Sure.
Right.
But yeah, our door was always unlocked and
he would lock it.
Yeah. It's so crazy.
It but yeah, that day he probably saved our lives.
He probably did. He probably did.
Because
I think that's why I get so emotional about him and why it was so hard for me to leave because I will forever think that he saved my family that day.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful to him. Yeah. And I don't know if that's the connection that I have with him in that house or I don't know, but I was just so grateful that my family is still here. And because it very well could have ended completely different.
Yeah.
And none of us may be here, to this day. I mean,
but I always think too that he saved our lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that guy obviously was not afraid to take a life. Because when the cops showed up, they still hadn't found the guy.
Yeah, so they wanted to look in the house, and I'm like, well, you can look in the house. I don't care.
Yeah.
Just don't shoot my husband that's laying in bed. No, I did end up waking him up. But
yeah, that was probably like the biggest thing that Louis had ever done was locked us in the bathroom somehow. He was able to
keep
that.
us away from harm. I really think
because all the lights were off in the house, so it would look like nobody was there.
Yeah.
Even if they saw the bathroom light from the alley, you wouldn't have seen that. You just would have saw that the house was dark.
Right.
And maybe you could get into that house to hide. I don't know.
They ended up catching the guy. He was down the road a little bit, like probably 5-6 blocks. And he did try to get into somebody else's house. That's how he was caught, actually, because the guy that house he tried to break into was not having it. And, you know, he was right on top of it and got him. But yeah.
So he probably tried to get into multiple houses.
Yeah, on the way down the road. Yeah.
And tried to get into our house.
Yeah, that story, like, yeah, sitting at the table when you told me that, Taylor, gave me goosebumps. It's just, I mean, yeah, that's definite protector mode. I mean, he knew something wasn't right. He, you know, and like you said, the weird things that happen, you know, you normally wouldn't shut the door to the bathroom, but all three of you were in there at the time. And, you know, you have to wonder too, like, did he kind of do something with your husband sleeping too, where he wouldn't hear anything? And it's just, you know, because he didn't hear you, he didn't hear this man at the door, he didn't hear any of this going on. So it's like, you know, what else was Louis doing that, you know, aside from keeping you in the bathroom, but just, you know, for him to know that. And it just, that creeped me out, because you're like, yeah, there's no way this door could have been locked. It was the, you know, and, you know, we, you know, Mom grew up in a farmhouse too. And so like, we know what glass doorknobs are like and how they work. And
like you said,
it's just, they're not locking themselves. And
there's nobody locking any door.
There's no.
Yeah. And the only thing I could think of was like humidity from the bath, like making the door stick. But like you said, you never had that happen before. No.
And then all of a sudden,
it would just all of a sudden magically open after 10 minutes, you know, like
weird how
it's
the guy.
It was weird how it like came.
Over. Yeah. So
I think
that is awesome.
Jimmy.
Well, we've kept you guys so long. Any other stories that you wanted to tell? These are really good ones.
He did a lot. Oh, the one that's really funny that some people like millennials, you may relate to this. I had Furbies.
Yeah, those are creepy.
Yeah, they were.
Oh, she loved Furbies.
I loved my Furbies. So I had a whole gang. My Furbies, they didn't face each other, because if you remember, they would talk to each other, right? So if you faced them towards each other, they would talk. And I just didn't obviously want them to talk at night, so I faced them away, and they sat on a shelf in the corner. And we ended up switching rooms again. And I ended up going back to Louie's room. Then I started having more things happen again. But after that happened, so then we moved. I put my Furbies up on my dresser, and they would constantly go off at night, like, because they're motion detected, basically. It's not that they talk to each other. They just felt like close enough that they motion detected. And they would just always go off. So my Furbies would constantly be talking to each other. And it wouldn't matter if I like put them in different places, because I remember being like, all right, I'm going to put this one in this corner, I'll put this one over here, and they better not talk to each other. But they would just like go off and talk all night, like something was in front of them. So that was something weird. And I just equated it to Louis trying to like mess with me at night, because he did that all the time. So my Furbies talking was a fun one. And then the protection that I felt over him, the doors were heavy. They're massive. You kind of had to like, well, I did have to like nudge into them to get it to actually like
solid oak. Like, yeah.
So I always remember like shutting it at night, and I'd kind of like slam it. But my door would crack open like 3 to 4 inches, and I would see the kitchen or the hall light come in, and then it would just close. And it would close all the way. Like it wasn't just sitting there, and no air is going to open up that door, you know?
Well, that door was hard to latch.
Yeah. You had to literally like body slam it.
Yeah.
To get it to shut.
Yeah.
But, so he would do that. He would open, and I just assume that it's him at this point. I always just say whatever happened to me there was him. Mm-hmm. But I always thought that he was just like telling me goodnight, or like looking over me to make sure I was like in bed where I was supposed to be. But yeah, my door would open, but only in that room. I never had any activity
in the other room.
Minus when they had my covers come off. But my covers came off anywhere I was.
Yeah.
So that wasn't weird to me. But yeah, that was the biggest thing that he would do, is he would open and close my door all the time. Mm-hmm. But only at night. And then he always took my covers off.
Did he ever do that to your brother?
No.
Just me.
It was just Taylor.
But nothing happened on Troy's birthday. Like in that document, there was nothing specific that occurred.
Close. Yeah. Right around it, but
never. Huh. He never talked about seeing him.
Right. Nope. He never did.
No, I don't remember.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. Was he a bachelor? Louis, he didn't have a family or
Wife or
a wife?
No, because it was his daughter that we bought the house from.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So he had
was
kids.
Like 90s when we bought it.
Aw. So yeah, so he is like a father, more protective of children. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yes. Kitchen sink constantly came on.
Yeah.
Like all the time. And we would be like, I could sit in the living room and if I could hear it come on and I go, Louis, knock it off. And then the kitchen sink would go off. So I knew it was him all the time. You know, like, and people, you know, when I would tell people stuff like this, they would think I was crazy. So I literally just stopped telling people, you know what I mean? Because they're like, oh yeah, sure. Your sink turns on, your faucet turns on in your kitchen. And then you yell at this ghost and it turns it off. And I'm like, it really did. I'm not the only one that saw this or, you know, knew that this happened. Yeah. So that would happen a lot with the kitchen sink. Yep.
But yeah, he was nice. It's always weird to tell people like that he was so nice. And I think that's why I've never been afraid of like ghosts. Like people are like, you want to go do a ghost tour? You want to go stay?
And I'm like, yes.
Yes, I do.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's go stay somewhere. But yeah, he just was so nice and pleasant. And he was just always there, but he
felt like part of the family. That makes sense.
Right.
But you haven't felt his presence since you left the house?
No.
Yeah. I felt other presences, but never I would know his.
Yeah. I would know me too, yeah.
Yeah.
Like if it was him, I would know it was him.
So he was kind of stuck there, at that house and
or not stuck there. He probably wanted to stay there. It was his house that he built. He's like, I'm not going anywhere. As much as I love this family, I think he's probably attached to that house.
Yeah, he wouldn't. I don't think he would leave the house.
I don't think he would either.
No, because he did everything. And we were actually trying to find the paperwork because I remember something that I think it relates to that house, but I got really into history because of Louis. So I actually, like in 4th and 5th grade, wrote papers about like historical houses.
She did.
And I went and
I even took her to a house.
And I like asked these poor people that lived there, like all these things about their home. And I was just weird about it. I swear, and she doesn't remember this, but I swear he was building that garage that was next to the house because it didn't match. It wasn't built at the same time. No. You could definitely tell later. It was built later. I thought that he had passed away on their anniversary in an electrical fire in the garage.
And I don't remember seeing that.
And I don't know why that happened. But then, like I said, with me really into all of these the historic houses, it could have been somebody else's house. Well, I just got it mixed in together because the one house that you took me to, that house did have a huge fire in it. But yeah, lots of crazy, weird things happened, but nothing that was ever like, he never had a bad intention.
No, never felt bad about
No. I think you guys are like kind of the lucky ones then. You get like the ghost experience, but not any of like the malevolence or like and not even super poltergeisty. I mean, a little bit, like switching pictures around and, turning water on, but nothing that's going to like, really affect you or make you super scared. So that's a neat, unique story, which I really like, but I thank you guys so much. We're going to let you go because our bladders are full.
That was a good story.
It was really good.
Yeah, I love the Louis story.
Yeah,
that house.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Stacy and Taylor. Thank you, ladies.
Taylor, thank you
for having us.
And Mom, if you're still around, we'll let you take it away.
Thank you for listening, and remember to keep that night light on. Good night, sweet dreams.
If you have a story to share, please send it to notyourmothersbedtimestory@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Not Your Mother's Bedtime Story. And please help us grow by following us on your favorite podcast platform, leaving us a positive review, and telling a friend. Thank you for your support.